Okay, so we're just checking the sound. So if there's anyone there, you can tell me if you hear me good. By writing a comment. So if there's anyone there, you can just tell me if you can hear me. I see some friends coming in. Good. Is the sound okay, everyone? I have my family here as tech support, so they're checking the sound. Kan du läsa in vad det står? We will begin very soon, just double checking everything with the technicalities. So dear sisters, if you hear me, just write a comment so I know. We have a new microphone, that's why we want to know that it's working. Vi måste gå in på min och sen in i... Oh, we hear you clearly, beautiful. Okay, so then we can begin. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Petra Parvati Kalla, and I'm going to build on the last session we had and kind of lay the foundation for the pelvic floor care and pelvic floor work. So I'm a yoga therapist and a physiotherapist, and I work with primarily women on different ways, different levels of experience of yoga, and different levels of physical fitness also. So this practice will be a little bit more around building the root support. So first class, we were focusing on the pelvic floor to build a connection and a contact, conversation with our pelvic floor and the whole pelvic area. And now we're going to expand on that together. So I get a good okay sign here from my partner then. It's all the technicalities are working on our sides here. It's my main stress doing this. Okay, so we begin seated. And before we start, actually, I want to just show you the props we're going to use, because this is more a therapeutic class, meaning that we'll use support to find deeper awareness and contact in the body and help with stability and alignment. So you use 2 blocks. They are our primary friends, together with at least 2 blankets, and also 1 strap. And before we begin, please make a loop of the strap that if you would take it around your thighs, it's hip width when you press them out. And I have a chair also, that's optional, you don't need it, we can use other things. I also have one of these yoga bolsters that's also more optional. So once you have the bolster in place, or the belt in place, we take a blanket and we're going to double fold it in a long side like this. It's going to be your super cozy belt in some of the practices that we do. So you can double fold it into lengthwise like that. And then the first part of the practice, we can just put that one to the side like so. So this can be your head support. And the other blanket we will have folded like this, maybe even double folded, depending on what you prefer. Okay. So that's all our props, our help. So now we begin the practice. So come seated comfortably cross-legged, placing the hands on your knees. We begin with a breath meditation. So you can close your eyes, soften the face, allowing the eyes to become heavy, the eyelids solid and heavy. The tongue is resting on the roof of the mouth, and you relax your lips and your lower jaw. If you feel any tension along the lower jaw, you bite the teeth together, so you hold the muscles together and breathe in. And then sigh out through the mouth to help yourself relax. So if we hold tension in the neck and in the jaw, that also transfers through the spinal core muscles down to the pelvic floor. So if you haven't given birth to a baby, you know that relaxing the jaw is very important to open the pelvic floor. So just pay attention to that patterns that you hold here, because it might be mirroring something that's going down in your pelvic floor. You can take a few rolls of the shoulders, just sensing our neck and our spine and our shoulder blades. And then release them down. Place one hand on your lower belly and fill the belly into your hand, so you soften and release the belly. You don't need to hold it in. Place one hand on your heart and sense the breath moving between these 2 points. So you arrive here in your body fully, in your breath. Begin lengthening the breath, slow and steady. Really expanding the belly as you breathe in and soften the belly as you breathe out. Feeling the pelvic floor move with the breath, the diaphragm and the pelvic floor move together. Inhaling, they push down into the earth. Exhaling, they relax upwards, both of them together. You're going to use the breath to contact the pelvic floor and use the breath to create resistance training for the pelvic floor today. So as you breathe in now, feel how it widens the pelvic floor. As you breathe out, draw the pelvic floor, the sit bones, pubic bone, and tailbone, perineum gently up and in. And as you breathe in, you hold that contact, that activation, feeling the resistance. As you breathe out, slowly release the pelvic floor in 3 stages or just very slowly. As you breathe in, you feel the pelvic floor open, widen, and relax into a stretch. As you breathe out, activate the pelvic floor, lift up and hold. Inhale, feel the pressure on the pelvic floor, resist. Notice if you can resist. As you exhale, you release and you soften it slowly in stages down. Breathing in, widening the pelvic floor. Exhaling, lifting it up and in, holding. Inhale, resist, keep the hold. Exhale and release. Inhale and widen into a stretch of the pelvic floor. Exhale and lift, activate. Inhale and hold. Exhale, release. Inhale and stretch. Relax. That is one way you can use the breath. Continue in your own rhythm. A few more breaths. To really pay attention, which part here is most important for me. Is it the lift, the hold, the gradual release, or the relaxation part? What does my pelvic floor need the most right now? So we have that contact. Today we're going to use the rest of our body to support the pelvic floor. So you can open your eyes. So we work with the inner muscles of your thighs, the outer front muscles, the deep internal iliopsoas muscle, very important when we talk about the pelvic floor, but also the back of your legs and your gluteal muscles. All of them create support, and especially the front of the thighs, the inner thighs, and the iliopsoas are synergists to the pelvic floor, so we can access the pelvic floor more strongly and give it support through these muscles. And iliopsoas, especially if it's tight on one side, it will rotate the pelvis and create an unevenness in your pelvic floor also. So often it can be more tense on the same side as the pelvic floor. As the iliopsoas is tense, the pelvic floor is also a little bit more activated. It might also be the opposite, so you need to pay attention and be interested. So we will continue now lying on our backs with the hips in neutral, so you relax the spine, the knees are bent, and feet can be wider than the hips, mat width apart. Placing the hands over the lower belly so that you soften the breath into your hands before you begin. So this practice is called a pelvic clock. We revisit this. We did it in the last class as well, creating awareness. So begin by tilting just slightly over to your right side, the weight in the pelvis to the right. And you can choose to do this on the exhale, inhale, So you activate whichever part of the breath you're comfortable with. So you activate by drawing the toes up, feeling that whole leg activate, and see if you can find the right side of your pelvic floor by doing that. On the exhale is easiest. And then you release. Pressing the lumbar spine into the floor, so it's more of a flexed spine, drawing the heels gently together and lifting the back part of your pelvic floor from sit bone to tailbone, anus, lifting that part up and in, and releasing. So that would be 6 o'clock. Taking the weight over to the left side, activating the left leg by lifting the toes up, maybe pressing the foot gently into the floor, and see if you can find the left side of your pelvic floor more toned. And then release, relax. Maybe you want to take a big breath in and just fill up the belly, and then in between. Now you arch the spine just softly and try to find from sit bone up to pubic bone the front part of your pelvic floor, around the urethral sphincter. If it's difficult to find, you can take the heels gently out and lean the knees into each other, and then you will find that it's easier to contact the 12 o'clock, the front part. And neutralize the legs. And take it one more time, leaning to the right, lifting the toes, maybe pressing the foot into the floor, and see if you find engagement on the right side, and maybe even up into the right side of your iliopsoas or the right side of your belly. And you release. Pushing softly down the whole spine, drawing sit bones and heels slightly together, and draw the back of your pelvic floor up and in. The Ashwini Mudra, the horse mudra, releasing. Weighting to the left side, lifting the left toes, maybe pushing leg in, finding the left side of your pelvic floor. You release, you arch the spine softly, tilt the pelvis forward, find the front part, front triangular part of your pelvic floor, maybe leaning knees in to find the adductor, and see if you can access a little bit more deeply. And then relax, and now just with your mind, go one more round without moving the body. So if you can isolate the pelvic floor muscles on the right side without tensing the leg at all. And then can you lift the back part of the pelvic floor without changing the position of the pelvis? The left side without activating the leg. And the front part without using the legs. This is also nice, of course, to feel, to have a hand in your pelvic floor and feel. Okay, so hopefully we have established some connection now. You come up and take your blanket and place it underneath your sacrum. Make sure that you can stretch your legs out. So you come lying on your back with this support underneath your pelvis. You stretch the legs out. This gives you a little bit of a length over the front part of your iliopsoas and hips. You can have the hands on these iliac crests, these hip points that are bony protrusions on the front of your pelvis. Inhaling, relaxing, and exhaling, drawing the toes up to the ceiling, flexing the feet and legs active. Long through the legs, noticing that you're narrowing these hip points. They're coming together to the pit of your belly. Inhale and release, toes and legs roll out. And there's a widening of the front of your pelvis. You exhale and you activate the legs, strong through the legs. Hip points come together and low belly lifts up and in. Inhale, release. Sensing your pelvic floor moving with the legs. You can activate it even further, the deeper the transverse abdominis, by thinking that we're going to lift the legs up. They will not lift. It's just that sense of hugging from the core, the low core of your belly and pelvic floor and iliopsoas. Try to lift the legs. So that is the core activation that you will want to use throughout your asana or your day when you need to stabilize the spine. You need to find stability. And you release. Very good. So we turn, lying now with these hip points on the front end part of our blanket. Legs outstretched, hip width. And you lie on your belly, hands on top of each other, forehead on the hands. And find the same action. So what you want to do is to activate the legs, lifting the inner thighs softly to the ceiling, drawing the hip points together, and feel that sense of the core coming up and in. I can't do this while speaking because it will be into the floor, so I will show you also now. So you activate by pressing the feet down, drawing the sit bones to the heels, having a sense of lift of the lower belly. From there, slowly lift the right leg just a few centimeters up so you feel the back of your leg engage. And if you lift a little bit further, you will feel your buttock engage. So that's where you want to stop the movement. If you lift further, you will feel the arch of the lumbar spine come in and you lose the core. So keep the core engagement, the length of the lumbar spine, and release. And lift the opposite leg. Just enough so you feel the glute engage. The forehead is pressing down to the hands. That will help to keep the core. And you release. You find the buttocks even more. You lift the leg. Squeeze the glute and exhale. Flex the foot and bend the knee. Then you activate the whole back leg. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, release. And can you do this without arching the lower spine? Can you keep the lower spine stable as you move the leg? So that's the investigation. Okay, calm now up. Lying with support for your head. We will move around the hips now to the outer sides of the hips. So we did the front and the back. Here it's nice to have support for the side body as you come, lying on your side, one blanket underneath the waistline and one underneath your head so that you're comfortable. Legs come up 90 degrees, hands can just rest in front of you. Begin slowly lifting the upper knee, feet are resting together. So this is called the clam. It's a very nice, easy exercise without it. Buttocks and hip. Creating stability in the outer rotators, the external rotators of the hip. From there, come stabilize the leg floating parallel to the floor and begin to circle the knee. So it's like you're drawing a circle on the wall in front of you, flexing the foot. And you want the back of your pelvis stable here, so you're not falling back or trying to lift the knee or leg high. Switch the circle's directions, trying to keep the whole leg together in one line, moving from the hip. And release and relax. Next exercise is an undulation for the spine. You stretch the right leg out, stretch it out through the heels, flex the foot, and keep it at hip height parallel to the floor and begin to swing the legs, maybe 20-30 centimeters back and forth. And relax through the hips, relax through the spine. Allow this movement to move into your spinal column. Keep relaxing the spine as you're stable and strong through the leg. We can investigate it also in a circular pattern, so allowing the circular pattern to move from the foot into the spine. So you create a circle with the foot and feel how it moves into your hips and your spine. Switch directions. Just notice how far up it comes. And also remember that soft contact of stabilization through the lower belly. Good. Release. So you switch to the opposite side. You guys can just turn. I'm gonna continue facing you. I felt this was a little bit too wide, my blanket, so I'm double folding it, making it smaller. So it's only supporting from like the gap between my hip and my ribs. I'm lying on the side and you begin with the clam. Remembering that it's not important to lift high. You want the SI joints, the back joints of your pelvis to be stable as you do this. And then you lift the leg up and begin to circle the knee, drawing the lower belly softly in. Switch directions. So now you need to coordinate the muscles of the hip a little bit more. And you release down. Stretching the leg back. Again, stabilize through the lower belly. Relax through the spine as you begin to swing the foot softly back and forth, creating a wave-like movement through the hips into your whole spine. How far up does the wave travel? See if it's a continuous wave or if it's broken, if it stops anywhere. You can circle the foot, stretching the leg straight, moving with awareness and sensitivity, switching directions. You can investigate making the circles a little bit bigger or smaller. They can be very tiny and maybe you even feel them more and higher up if they're really small. Okay, good. We relax there. Continue the work to release the iliopsoas. Take your blanket, come up and sit, and place yourself so that you lie with the sacrum supported on the blanket. I want to have it a little bit higher, so I'm double folding my blanket, so that's your choice. And you come with the legs bent, feet hip width. I like to have my hands over my womb area and my hip area when I do these exercises because it helps me to connect. You can also have them out to the side. Now you begin to tilt the pelvis. It's a massage the low back. And you also warm up and get in contact with the iliopsoas, the deepest hip flexor muscle that we have, that comes from the inner femur up on the inner sides of your ilium bones, the hip bones, and attaching all throughout your lumbar vertebrae. But it's most importantly actually a lumbar stabilizing muscle. So that's a little bit what we're investigating this practice, how we can access the iliopsoas and help it to stabilize us as we move. So being stable doesn't mean that we are static or still. It means being able to move with integrity without hurting ourselves in the long run. So find center there. Maybe I can feel actually warmth here just from these simple exercises. Stretch your right leg out now. So we'll work on releasing the psoas now, drawing the inner thigh down towards the earth as you take the left knee up. Hug the back of the knee and draw the knee to the armpit. Keep stretching out through the right leg. And then you will feel an opening across the front of your right hip. Okay, good. We switch sides. And come back with both feet parallel. Then you stretch the left leg out. So the transitions are important. Bringing the right leg up and out to the right armpit. Keep drawing the inner groin of your left knee to the earth. And a soft hugging in of the right knee, releasing the front of the left hip. And come back and expand on that by stretching the right leg out again. Now taking the left leg up, holding the back of the thigh and pressing the leg away, and you will feel that activates your core. So as you stretch your left leg out, the lower belly draws up and in. Maybe the pelvic floor will awaken as well. Try to keep that stable sense of soft activation. As you exhale, lift your right leg up and you lower it down, lengthen it out, far away. You do that a few times in your own pace. Maybe you want to go really slow. So now we're working the front part of our right hip in both directions. Especially the lowering down is important. The eccentric part of the movement. You stretch the left leg out, switching sides, taking hold of the back right leg, pressing the leg out, drawing the lower belly up and in, feeling that the spine is stable. So as you lift the leg up, the spine doesn't move much. Make sure, especially if you notice as you're lowering the leg, you start to arch the spine. So then you lost the connection and the stability. So the length through the lumbar spine is constant through this engagement and contact with the transverse abdominis, the inner layers of your abdominal muscles. Okay. And release from there. You can take your belt and take it around your thighs. You continue lying on our support. Sacrum is supported. Feet hip width. You press gently out into the strap, the belt. Relaxing the arms next to the sides of your body. I really enjoy having my arms wider to the sides. I'm taking them up more into a cactus position. You inhale here and arch the spine. You're drawing the hips to the thighs. And from there, you exhale, you press down and you lift. Keep pressing out into the belt, activating the glutes, the buttocks. So you release. There's an inhale as you draw pelvis to thighs, and an exhale as you press and you lift. So now as you press out, remember your pelvic floor. Exhale, and when it decompresses, can you activate it and give it a little bit more movement up and into your pelvic bowl. Notice if you're accessing the whole or the deeper layers, if you're feeling it into the vaginal canal, or if it's more on the front or the back, even side to side. So pay attention as you're rocking through this movement one more time. And release. Allow the knees to come in together, heels apart, hands on the groin, the womb area. You can take yoni mudra, fingers together, thumbs touching, just breathing in. Feeling the pelvic floor expand and release, the low back expand, the belly and the waistline expand, and then sigh out. One more time. You take the knees towards you and take away the strap. Roll onto your side. Take away the blanket. We'll do another variation of bridge. I love bridge because it's so versatile. I have maybe 50 variations that I work with patients and students, and especially myself. So you come lying back again. This I call the pearl necklace. I'm going to focus on the lumbar spine, the lower back. So as you breathe in, you draw the tailbone up and the lumbar spine is pushing softly into the floor, and you lift the sacrum up. You exhale, you release, and you draw it softly. Either you choose actually to come into an arch of the spine, or you just come to neutral. So whatever feels good. This is the most important, that you inhale and you lift to the first lumbar vertebra, then you release. And you lift. Again, inhale, press the feet down, lift to the second lumbar vertebra, and you release. Of course, most of us can't feel a vertebra, so it's more the sense of I'm lifting very slowly and a little bit higher, a few centimeters higher every time. So it's this undulation again of the spine, a very soft contact. And I want you to focus not on lifting high at all, but can I feel and move this as a pearl necklace moves? So I lift one end of the pearl necklace, so the pearls lift one at a time together. So can I find that rolling action through my lumbar spine? This exercise is beautiful to do through the whole spine, but for today, focus on the lower spine. And you have 5 lumbar vertebrae. So from the sacrum to your lower ribs, that's the area you're focusing on. It's like an internal massage, and you bring your awareness to this area. Notice if there's any stiffness, discomfort, or pain at all, and how it might ease as you bring awareness and movement back into this part of your spine. Okay, so last one. Roll to your side and come up. So probably there's already a lot of warmth, a lot of awareness in this area. We'll continue with some more dynamic movements for the hips and the spine. And this might be a bit more challenging, so really listen into your body and feel if they are appropriate today. You can also pause and repeat something that we did before, or take your own variation. Begin standing on all fours, with the knees together, feet together. Press the tops of the feet into the floor. Feel how that lifts the lower belly. From there, stretch your right leg out, toes in the floor, pressing through the back heel, lifting through the thigh, and again having a sense that the hip points are narrowing. And you just think that you're going to lift the back leg, the right leg, the left leg up. So you think that you're going to lift the bent leg up to the front of your chest. So strong through the right leg, thinking that you're going to lift. Maybe you don't even lift, you just think, and you will activate the core. And if it's available for you, you lift the knee high up, flex the foot, and lift the spine between your shoulder blades, and you hold. And you breathe into the back ribs, and you release. And we take the other side. So legs comes together, stepping back. Toes in the floor. Rolling the outer the inner thigh up to the ceiling, lifting the top thigh up, activating the hip points together, low belly up and in, pressing through the hands, thinking you're going to lift the leg up, noticing how the body instantly reacts by supporting the whole spinal structure and the hips. And then you can try to lift, and you hold and you breathe into your back body. And release down. So we keep that, knees still together. Keep that sense of activation, of contact, bringing the right leg back, around, forwards and down in a circle. Circling the right leg. It can be a small circle, or you take it into your range of motion. Being stable through the left arm, the left side body, pressing into the left lower leg. And now switch direction, so you draw the leg up in under you, out to the side, back and down. Noticing if it's easier or more challenging to keep stability here. And release down. Tucking the toes back towards downward facing dog. Stand on your toes, lift your right leg up to the ceiling, flex the foot and bend the knee, heel to buttocks. Open the hip out to the side and take the foot out over to the opposite side into the open hip position, where you feel a stretch through the inner side of your left leg into the front of your right hip. We can work the arch of the left leg by pushing the heel down, lifting the toes up, spreading the toes and coming standing on our toes. Pressing the heel down again, lifting the toes, spreading the toes, lifting up. So the dome of your foot has something to do with your pelvic floor, as the diaphragm of your breath has something to do with your pelvic floor. So bring the leg straight, parallel the hips, take the knee in front to the outside of your right hand. You bring the foot down, the knee down, untucking the back toes. Beginning to circle the right hip, the right knee, pressing the feet into the floor to keep stability. Switching directions. So here you are opening and stretching and activating the right side of your pelvic floor together with the leg. The left side is more stable and neutral. Find center. Take the foot in under you. Hands can now take the blocks. You come up on the height of the blocks. The blocks are underneath your shoulders. You press into the blocks and press into the back leg and draw it a little bit back. So often we just push down into the flexibility, but here we want to go back, draw in, draw the right buttock a little bit back and the front left hip a little bit forwards, and feel a scissoring action. You can pull the knee and the heel together to rise up. Press into the hands and find the breath in the side ribs. So again, stability before this unbalanced focus on flexibility that also comes with women in yoga. Tucking the back foot, taking the hands on the front thigh, drawing yourself even further back, releasing the skin of the buttock towards the floor, towards the earth, and you will feel a lengthening, opening on the front hip. Feel that you are stable here so that you could move from here. because we're going to do that. So as you breathe in, you lift up, come standing, both legs are stretched. With your next inhale, you sit back down into that position as you raise the arms up, lengthening the side body. Exhale, straightening both legs, arms release down. Inhale, arms can come into cactus, opening the chest. Exhale, release the arms. A slow, whole body movement where you're grounded and stable in the low body so that you can be free and relaxed from the navel up, basically. To take up length and take out width in your torso. Okay. One last inhale, stretching up, release the knee to the floor, and exhale. Hands can come down to the floor. We step back and through downward facing dog. We bring the knees down with the feet together. I take my blocks to the side for a moment. And we will begin circling the left leg back, up and around. Finding symmetry as much as you can through the shoulders by pressing the hands equally into the floor. Make sure you're not falling over to the right hip, so press the lower right leg into the floor. And you switch directions, drawing up, in and around. Noticing any side differences in stability, strength, endurance. And release down, tucking the toes, pressing back to downward facing dog, bringing the left leg back, flexing the foot, bending the knee, and open the hip out to the side. Keep stretching equally through both hands into the floor. And again, draw the low belly up and in, so you're not just arching, falling. You're resisting gravity. And work the standing foot. As you press the heels down, you lift the toes up. You spread the toes and lift the heel. That pumping action to strengthen the fascia and the muscles around your foot, especially the sole of the foot that has the relationship to the pelvic floor. Release down, bringing the leg straight, and then taking the foot to the outside of the left hand. And come up on the fingertips of the hands and releasing the back leg into the floor. And circling the left knee and hip. It helps to think that you're moving from the sacrum, from the pelvic floor, tailbone, pubic bone. It makes you more stable. And feel it, you draw in both legs to the perineum, that sense of strength, drawing up into your core. You switch directions if you haven't. Good. You can zigzag the foot, placing the blocks underneath your shoulders. Pressing the hands into the blocks to lengthen the spine, freeing up the neck. Drawing the left hip back, the outer right hip softly forward, and pulling in with the legs to create a lift and a toning of your leg muscles. You can also do the opposite so that you press them down into the floor. And I guess the ideal thing would be to do the both a little bit at the same time, so that there's a big sense of the muscles hugging your bones. Very good for bone health throughout your life, ladies. Tucking the back foot, hands on the front thigh, and you draw yourself back. Softly releasing the back of the pelvis and buttocks down into the earth. Lower belly lifts up and in. Releasing the arms to the side, and you can move from there so that you straighten both legs and you come up standing. From here, with your next inhale, you swipe the arms softly up as you lower the back leg, and the arms release as the legs straighten. You inhale into cactus arms, exhale and release. Remembering that the movement is coming from two strong centered legs, that the tailbone is drawn and the pelvic floor is drawn into the earth. So you have that center of gravity and stability in place. As you lengthen up to the sky. So it's always this constant dance relating to gravity through earth and space. One last. When you lift up now, you leave the back leg on the floor and you step back to downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana, and you release into symmetry and stillness for a few breaths before you come down onto your knees. So now we will work with more integrity of the spine, and the hips are also the shoulders. Everything is involved because nothing is working in isolation. So for women, we often need a lot of strength in our upper bodies as well as our lower bodies to feel empowered, to feel that we are up to the task of doing whatever we need to do. If we are too flimsy and too, in a way, soft, that also mirrors how we are in our bodies and how we move and how we present ourselves. So it's a good balance to have. Now we will move with a stable spine at first. Well, always a stable spine, but a still spine, a static spine. So you tuck the toes, you press the heels back so that the knees lift just slightly. And here is the first variation, where you press the hands and the toes into the floor and lift the upper spine between the shoulder blades. Head is in line with the shoulders. So there you can stay. You try to lift one foot, keeping the hips stable. And try the opposite foot, keeping the hips stable. And then release. Child's pose is a wonderful opportunity to go in between these variations. Next one, we lift. Maybe we try to lift one foot and the opposite hand and find balance. What will happen is that we twist and we turn. So that's what the spine is taught not to do here, to stay stable. It's the inner small muscles of the spine activated. You switch sides, noticing if it's easier on one side. Be careful so you don't go back halfway to downward facing dog. Then you're cheating. And come down. And release downward into Balasana. Stretching the arms forwards. And really take this opportunity to lengthen the spine. Release the head to the floor. And breathe into the hips, to the pelvic floor. It's a wonderful pose to stretch and bring awareness to the pelvic floor and the womb and the low back. Okay, so then we did 3 different variations. One was just lifting the knees. One was coming up with one foot. One was lifting the diagonal. We're going to add movement here with all 4 paws on the floor. So standing with the knees just gently lifted off the floor, you can begin to circle through the pelvis. So it's a tilt back and forth in your pelvis. You can begin small, and that will create a spinal wave. Maybe you bring it up between the shoulder blades, so you can really investigate your movement there and see how that frees up the spine eventually, and also bring lots of strength through the whole system, from the neck, through the shoulders, the front and the side and the inner side and the pelvic floor and the feet. Wonderful practice. So from there, come and relax down to Balasana again. If you want more length in the spine, you have the knees wider apart. If you want to give more stretch into the lumbar spine, you bring the knees together. But you work the arms, so stretch the arms forwards and press them into the floor to bring the weight back onto your heels. Take a few breaths. And come up and sit. So now I will double fold my mat. I see that this class will be a little bit longer than 1 hour, and I feel that I would like to offer this to you. So I'm just going to go. And if you need to go, you go when you need to. So you have the mat double folded, and one blanket that you will use as a support for your leg underneath you. Here there's an option to use the chair or the blocks. To begin standing on our knees, I will show you the chair. Here you just stand if you have the blocks. So one foot is in front and the knees resting on your support back. You find the length and you push into the front foot. You begin with the hips symmetrical to slide the back leg back and out, and then draw it up and in. So you're strengthening the hamstrings, the back muscles of the leg on the front leg, and you're working the iliopsoas and the core, lower core muscles on the back leg. Good. So switch sides. Remembering the actions of hugging in and pressing out at the same time. This is really bringing those two actions into action, into this movement. Notice if there's any side differences in strength or flexibility or comfort, discomfort. Good, so you come up. Next variation is for the inner thighs. So you stand with one knee on top of the mat that will be stable and stuck to the floor. The other one will slide away. The hands can be on the hips. Notice if they are tilting or if they are even. So of course you want to even them out so that they are at the same level. And from there you begin to slide softly out and draw in. This is very strong, so don't go too far. You will feel your pelvic floor work together with the leg and core muscles here. How is just happening because of the movement. Good. And you switch direction, so you do the movement on the opposite side. So now the other leg is stable. Begin with a small movement. Hips are square and even. And are they the same, or does it feel different on this side? In whatever way, pay attention. Okay, so obviously you can work longer and in repetitions here with these practices. Okay, so now you open your mat. You've done some really good strengthening work. You add a little bit more juice, awareness into your deep hips, the hip joints themselves. So come sit like you would do for Navasana, the boat pose. Feet are planted on the floor and you tip the pelvis forwards. If you sit with a rounded spine, this is not advisable to do. Maybe the blanket will help you. If you have that underneath the flesh of your buttocks and the sit bones in front so that it tilts your pelvis forwards. Take the elbows on the outside of your knees and you press into your hands and the arms press into the knees. So you lift the whole side body, you grow tall. Notice how the low belly lifts as you do this. That means also for most of us that the pelvic floor will activate and lift. You can try to take the arms on the inside and press on the inside. And maybe you feel the pelvic floor engage with the adductors here also. You can do in faster repetitions. Nice to do it with your breath, choosing if you activate on the inhale or the exhale. The inhale is more creating a resistance, pushing the pelvic floor down. And the exhale is making it a bit easier to lift. Okay. Come sit now with your left leg in front of you and the right knee bent, foot pointing back. This can be very strong for many knees. The option is to take the foot a little bit more out, then the hips will turn. So actually, if you feel discomfort in the knees, I would advise you to stretch the leg forwards. I will show you the variation with the bent leg for today. It will be difficult to find weight fully on the bent knee sit bone, just so you know. But you try to even out the legs. If there's a big lift or a big tilt to one side, you can always use support to help even out the body just a little bit with a blanket underneath the knee. So here one hand, the right hand on the right hip, the left hand on the floor to the side. You begin to turn softly, rolling through the hip, pushing the sit bone to the floor and then lifting it and rotating the pelvis, looking over the left shoulder, coming down, looking forwards. It's a nice way of releasing all this work that we've done around the hip joints and the low back. You can stretch the arm overhead on the inhale, exhale and bring the arm back down. So the arm is accentuating the movement from the hip throughout the spine. If the body says yes, you press down through the right foot, and as you inhale, you lift the whole hips up, and you come into a side bend, opening of the body. You can exhale, come down, and repeat a few times, lengthening the front hip through the lower leg that is pressing down, and the arm that is reaching up and over. You can do this dynamically, or you stay and you stretch more statically for a little while. And we switch sides. I forgot to show you on the other side, so I add it now. This is a nice variation also where you tilt the pelvis back and forth. I usually begin that way for reference sake. So left hand on left hip, right hand behind you a little bit to the side. You lean a little bit back into the seat, and then you roll through the hip, roll it in towards the right leg. So there's a twist that's coming from the leg, through the pelvis, through the spine, to your eyes. The eyes are always following these twist and turning movements. Begin to take the arm with you. Just notice how that immediately gives more rotation to the upper spine. When you want to, you inhale and you lift and you push the hip up and forwards. You exhale, you draw it back and down. Feeling this side. Can be a very nice opening for the iliopsoas. It's flexing, it's activating here. And then it's opening into its length as you lift the hips up. One last there. And release. Stretching the legs out in front of you. You can lean back and just turn the feet and the legs from the hip sockets, releasing, rolling inside the hips. Okay. Now it's time for our folded long blanket. Bringing the legs together for Baddha Konasana, butterfly. You can have them a little bit away from you, feeling the space between the pelvis and the feet that are appropriate for you. And you take the blanket underneath your hips. This blanket is a little bit small. If you have longer one, it's nice to double fold it so you really get nice support for the hips. They are not sinking into their outer range of movement. You can feel maybe there's nice to have support also behind the hips with the bolster. Taking the elbows on the inner sides of the legs, lifting the knees up, lifting the chest, releasing the shoulders down and pressing the arms into the legs into the arms, feeling this deep activation on the inner groins. And taking the arms on the outside, pressing the knees out into the arms. Feeling the outer legs and buttocks engage more. One more time inside, heels pressing together. And then softly release the legs out. Interlacing the fingers and gently holding the toes if available, otherwise you just hold the front of your shins. Lengthening the spine. Breathing into the pelvis, breathing heaviness and spaciousness, relaxation into the hips and the pelvic floor. So be working a lot. Allow that to release now. As you start to circle the heart, so Sufi circles. If you have the hands holding the feet, is a little bit more centered. You can choose to keep it like that, or you take the hands out to the knees and the movement becomes a little bit more free. We'll add a sound here, the humming Brahmari, the bumblebee breath. It's an M sound. You can just copy and follow in your own rhythm. Switching directions. And find stillness. Just pause. Relax the face. And the breath. Taking the hands on the outside of your legs and bring them together, taking away your support. So for Shavasana, we would like to give you an option that is supported. Either you have just something that supports you underneath the pelvis, like we began. I'm going to use the bolster for that. I'm also going to support my legs, so they will be at the same height as my pelvis by using my blocks and my blankets like so. You could lie flat with the spine on the ground and place the legs onto the seat of the chair. It's another beautiful option. So what we're aiming for is to decompress the spine and the iliopsoas and the pelvic floor. So I will use the strap around my legs. I'll place it around the lower legs when I come into this extended supported bridge. So I have my buttocks on my support for the sacrum, and as I lean back, I lift my legs up, resting the lower part of my calf muscles on the support for the feet. My whole sacrum is supported on the bolster or blanket. My arms come out 45 degrees to the side so that I have air inside my armpit and I can really widen my chest. And to begin to relax, flex the feet, point the toes to the ceiling, activate the legs, and think that you're going to lift the legs up towards the ceiling. So as we began, hold, feel the tension in the pelvis, low belly, the lengthening of the low back, and the strength in your legs. And with a sigh, you allow the whole body to melt and soften. Allowing the breath to move from the chest to the belly, to the pelvic floor as you breathe in. And the out breath is moving from the pelvic floor through the belly to the chest. There's a widening on the inhale from the top to the bottom, and a softening on the exhale from the bottom to the top. Continue to breathe like so. And maybe make it more subtle and soft. So you tone down the intensity of the breath, extending the exhales to soothe your whole being. mentally say to yourself the Be Woman prayer. No woman, be woman, all women, nature, nurture, me. 3 woman, strong woman, brave women, find your voice and shine. Reflection, connection, protection. Standing side by side. No woman, be woman, all women, nature, nurture, me. So you slowly begin to find a way out of the supported inversion. So when you have the belt around the feet, you need to be careful so you're not overarching the lumbar spine. You can roll to the side. It doesn't matter if you flip the blocks to the floor. It's roll to the side, and from there push yourself up and come to sit in your own time. So you've been in an inversion, so it's good to take a long time in the side bend and then in the side lying, and then slowly push yourself up. And placing the hands in front of the heart. So my sincere and heartfelt prayer for us all is that our yoga practice will be a place where we can be in intimate relationship with all that we are, so that we don't need to seek to become something else. It's a place where we discover our strength that is already there, and we learn to hold the weakness with compassion, empathy, and love, knowing that we can't have one without the other, and knowing weakness is what gives us strength. And the physical asana practice is a wonderful way of meeting that emotionally, psychologically, through the physical form. So we let our physical home, our body, inspire us and inform us and guide us. We close this session with a prayer for the knowledge that is beyond all other knowledge, or includes all knowledge. So Sarasvati Devi, breathe in and sigh out. Aim Hrim Om Sarasvatye Namaha. Aim Hrim Om Sarasvatye Namaha. Aim Hrim Om Sarasvatye Namaha. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining, live or playback. I'm honored to be a part of the Be Woman project and to be a part of this lovely community that it's building around it. So thank you everyone for being that support, being that sisterhood. I really hope I get to meet you all in person one day if I haven't already. Namaste. My partner is giving me applause. Stänger du av?